The room was sleek, cold, and polished. Glass walls, concrete floors, the kind of place where decisions are made with millions behind them and empathy left at the door. Nia Clark stood at the far end of a long steel table, her palms damp but steady. Her twist-out curls framed her focused face. She had one shot to pitch her code, a clean, modular AI-integrated back-end framework that could power any app at triple speed with half the bloat. Months of late nights and ramen-fueled testing brought her here. But no one was looking at her code. They were looking at her. 5 men in Patagonia vests and logo-drenched hoodies leaned back in their chairs like they'd already decided. One of them, Brent, the founder, didn't even bother to look at her presentation. He leaned over to another guy and whispered, "Just loud enough. She's not exactly MIT material, huh?" The room chuckled. Nia heard it. She kept talking anyway. Her hands moved with determination across her laptop, live demoing the code. The back end was lightning fast. It ran circles around the glitchy app Brent and his boys had built, an education platform that barely loaded on mobile. But when she finished, they gave her silence. Then Brent cleared his throat. "We're going in a different direction. We're already pretty far along with our devs. Appreciate the effort, though." "Wait," Nia said, keeping her voice calm. "Your app crashes under load. I can fix it. You saw the numbers. Let me—" Brent waved her off, smirking. "Look, it's nothing personal. You're probably good at some stuff, just not this stuff. It's not a school project. It's real tech, real money. This isn't the Empower Her scholarship program, you know?" The last part was a dig. She didn't flinch. The door opened behind her. Another developer walked in, white, male, visibly stoned. They greeted him with a fist bump and offered him a spot on the team immediately. She wasn't even out of the room yet. Nia packed her laptop slowly, eyes burning. They didn't reject her code. They rejected her because she didn't look like them. Because she was a black girl who dared to walk into their tech kingdom and say she could build better. But they were wrong. So very wrong. And tonight, she would prove it. Outside the glass tower of Catalyst Labs, the city roared like nothing had happened. Neon signs blinked, Ubers honked, and the buzz of downtown innovation hummed as if dreams weren't being crushed on the 14th floor. Nia walked down the concrete steps slowly, not because she was tired, but because every step echoed what they'd said. This isn't the Empower Her scholarship program. Probably good at some stuff. Just not this. She kept hearing it like static in her ears. The sidewalk was crowded, but she felt invisible. She clutched her laptop case tighter like it was armor, or maybe all she had left. Her phone buzzed. A text from Aunt Lorna, the woman who raised her. "How did it go, baby girl? Did they finally see what I always see?" Nia stared at the message, her thumb hovering. She couldn't bring herself to answer. Not yet. Not when her chest still felt hollow, because it wasn't just one pitch gone wrong. It was a pattern. Every time she walked into these rooms, her code clean, her algorithms airtight, someone would smile politely, nod blankly, then move on to the next guy. The one who looked the part. She had top marks in computer science, had published 2 open-source tools that other devs actually used. She'd even built a scholarship search app for black girls in STEM that helped over 3,000 high schoolers last year. But in Silicon Valley, none of that mattered. Not when your skin, your hair, your presence threatened their narrative. She stopped at a nearby coffee shop, her safe place, a little hole in the wall with dusty tables and strong Wi-Fi. The barista, a soft-spoken girl named Jo, gave her the usual cold brew, splash of oat milk, and didn't ask questions. That helped. Nia slid into a corner booth, opened her laptop, and just stared. On screen was their code. Catalyst's buggy, bloated, insecure mess. She had seen enough during the pitch to know exactly where the vulnerabilities were. They had no firewall segmentation, no encrypted sessions, and worst of all, a third-party plugin leaking user data. And yet they had the audacity to laugh her out of the room. She knew how to fix it, knew how to rebuild it, not just fix their app, but completely outcode it, overnight. Her fingers hovered over the keys. A part of her said, "Let it go. It's not your problem," but another voice, deeper, older, louder, whispered, "They said black girls can't code." And that was the moment the fire caught. Naya plugged in her USB drive, the one with her personal dev stack, her debugging tools, and her AI assistant prototype. She wasn't going to fight for a seat at their table. She was going to build the whole damn table herself. The coffee shop was nearly empty now, save for a pair of students whispering over flashcards and the soft hum of a dishwasher in the back. The clock on the wall ticked past 11:17 p.m. Nia sat still, her eyes locked on her screen, but her mind was somewhere else, deep in the code. She slid the silver flash drive into her laptop's port. A custom light blue icon popped up. Core X, Dev Mode, her personal development environment. Self-written, self-trained, no GitHub profile, no open source repo, no social clout, just her and her code. Nobody knew what she'd built because no one ever stayed long enough to find out. The files loaded in silence. ParseKit, her own syntax parser. Neuralinker, AI-assisted code prediction she wrote after her junior year. Redroot, her latest baby. A self-healing back-end architecture that optimized resource allocation in real time. "They said you weren't ready," she muttered under her breath. "But you've been ready." Nia took a deep breath and pulled up Catalyst's broken API structure. She still had the cached version from their demo. She opened it side by side with Redroot. Then she cracked her knuckles and whispered, "Let's rebuild this from the bones." Her fingers flew. No distractions, no pings, no Slack channels, just the quiet rhythm of pure creation. She restructured their back-end calls, streamlined the data packets, eliminated 4 redundant authentication layers. Where they had 2,800 lines of messy, patched-together code, Nia compressed it to 712. And it worked faster. She built in logging scripts that auto-corrected user crashes. She added multilingual support with one recursive function. Then she tested it on 3 different OS types. It passed all 3. And then came the front-end integration. They had a glitchy React stack that broke every 3rd load. Nia didn't fix it. She wrote a new one, from scratch. By 2:53 a.m. her hands were trembling. Not from fear, but power. This wasn't just coding. It was alchemy. She was bending their broken logic into beauty. Every key press was defiance. Every semicolon was vengeance. She wasn't just making an app that worked. She was making an app that destroyed theirs in every metric that mattered. Better UI, faster load time, encrypted end-to-end, more intuitive UX, lightweight build. She looked down at what she had created and almost couldn't believe it. She hadn't rebuilt their app. She had evolved it. The screen flashed a final message. Build successful. 0 errors. Runtime 2.3. Nia sat back, eyes wide, heart pounding. She took off her hoodie and wiped the sweat from her brow. No tech bros, no panels, no permission, just pure, undeniable brilliance. And no one could take it from her now. The city outside was asleep, but inside that coffee shop, something extraordinary was happening. Nia had just done the impossible. Rewritten an entire application infrastructure from scratch in under 4 hours. And not just any app. The flagship product of a startup that dared to laugh in her face. A product that had already secured its Series A funding from smug VCs with money to burn and minds too narrow to see past their own reflections. And now, their code was obsolete. She could have gone home, slept, called it a night. But no, because this wasn't over. Not yet. Nia zipped the build files, renamed the final folder to Catalyst Reborn Zip, just to be petty. She uploaded the file to a private cloud, encrypted the link with a 12-character password, and generated a time-stamped access log. Then she wrote a short note. "You said I wasn't a real developer. Here's a real product, built in one night, by a black girl who codes." NC. She copied the link, took a breath and emailed it. To Brent, to the board, to their lead investor, and for good measure, to herself. With the subject line, "Your app has a new version. It actually works." Then she shut her laptop. No mic drop, no camera, no viral tweet storm. Just a silent walk out the coffee shop door at 4:14 a.m., like a ghost who'd rewritten history. By sunrise, she was asleep in her tiny studio apartment, her bed unmade, her sneakers kicked off in the hall, phone face down, notifications piling up like a bomb waiting to go off. And it did. At 8:22 a.m., Brent's email exploded. The board saw it first, then the CTO, then the intern in DevOps who realized their app was now being outperformed by a stranger with no badge, no title, and no access to their servers because that stranger had rebuilt everything and fixed bugs they didn't even know they had. Where did she get this code? How is this running cleaner than our prod environment? Who the hell is NC? And Brent? He was quiet because he knew. He knew exactly who NC was. By 9:17 a.m., two of the firm's angel investors were demanding a meeting. By 9:30, the development team was panicking, trying to explain how a woman they dismissed as not real tech had outperformed their entire stack overnight. By 10:20, the download logs showed that the new app, Nia's app, had been cloned to 3 different devices in their office. They didn't know whether to sue her or hire her. And that was the sweetest part, because Nia wasn't even watching. She was still asleep. The world had started unraveling without her. While Catalyst's team scrambled, while group chats buzzed with panic, and Slack threads lit up with phrases like total refactor, codebase rollback, and who is this girl? Nia Clark was dreaming, not of success, not of revenge. She was dreaming of her mother. Back when Nia was 9, her mother would sit at the kitchen table late into the night, disassembling donated laptops from the school surplus program. Half were junk, all were ancient. But she taught Nia to breathe life into dead machines. "Technology ain't magic," her mother would whisper, soldering iron in one hand. "It's just language. You learn it like any other. And then you use it to speak your truth." That line stuck. Even after her mother passed, even after the foster system, even after she landed in the tiny apartment with her Aunt Lorna, eating instant noodles and stretching one Wi-Fi hotspot between 3 devices. Other kids watched cartoons. Nia reverse-engineered HTML templates at 12. By 14, she had built a chatbot that helped seniors book prescriptions in her neighborhood. At 16, she got waitlisted for a tech camp because someone with more leadership experience, i.e., someone richer and paler, took her slot. She didn't get bitter. She got better. That flash drive, the one she always carried, it wasn't just a piece of metal. It was legacy. Every line of code she'd ever written since the age of 13 lived on it. Her wins, her failures, the tears at 2 a.m. when the compiler refused to run. The thrill when it finally did. That wasn't just code. That was her root. And in tech, your roots define you, not your resume, not your title, not your LinkedIn endorsements, your code. When she woke up around noon, her phone had 47 notifications, missed calls, unread messages, emails with subject lines like, "Let's talk," "Urgent," "Request for meeting," and even one that just said, "Please." She opened the last one. It was from Catalyst's interim CTO, not Brent. He had gone silent. "Hi, Nia. This is Alex from Catalyst. We just reviewed your build. I want to be transparent. We're floored. It's cleaner, faster, and more secure than anything we've deployed. I'd like to talk. And more than that, I'd like to listen." She stared at the screen, unreadable, then smiled, just a little. Because now, they weren't asking to hire her. They were asking to hear her. At 12:47 p.m., Nia stood in front of her bathroom mirror, still wearing last night's hoodie. The same hoodie she'd worn into that pitch room. The same hoodie they smirked at when they looked past her. She tied her curls back, washed her face, brushed her teeth, and when she looked into the mirror again, She saw her mother's fire. She didn't need makeup, didn't need a stylist. She had her story. And now, she was going to tell it. Back in her living room, she opened her laptop. Not to code. To speak. She opened her webcam and hit record. Her voice was calm, deliberate, clear, like someone who knew she wasn't asking for validation anymore. She was holding receipts. They told me I wasn't the right fit, that I wasn't a real developer, that this wasn't school. It was the real world. So I built something real, in one night, and now it works better than the app they funded. Pause. My name is Nia Clark. And yes, I'm a black girl. Who codes? She uploaded the video to Twitter, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Not to gloat, but to document. Just the facts. No dramatics. She included the time-stamped logs, the build metrics, and a side-by-side video showing the performance of Catalyst's original app versus the one she built. No commentary needed. The code spoke. It started small, a few reposts, then a comment from a well-known black engineer at Google. This is the cleanest refactor I've seen all year. Who is she? Then a viral quote tweet. They told her she wasn't real tech. She rebuilt their house while they slept. By 4:06 p.m., her video had hit 200,000 views. By 7:42 p.m., she was trending under Sure Black Girl Code and Root Code. And Brent? Nowhere to be found. He had locked down his socials. His team deleted 2 tweets, and a leaked internal email showed Catalyst trying to figure out how to spin the narrative. But it was too late. The truth was out, because it wasn't just about Nia anymore. It was about every girl like her who sat quietly in classrooms, outperformed her peers, and still got overlooked. Every developer who built more with less and got passed over for someone with a shinier LinkedIn banner. Every woman who got told, "You don't look like a programmer." The world was watching, not because she asked for it, but because she earned it, line by line, night by night, truth by truth. The silence from Catalyst Labs didn't last long. By the next morning, tech blogs had already picked up the story. Black developer rebuilds funded startup's code overnight. Goes viral. Silicon Valley's bias problem faces a new name. Nia Clark. Real dev, real code, real quiet from Catalyst. It wasn't just a scandal. It was a reckoning. Their investors started pulling out. A board member resigned. A viral Reddit thread dissected Catalyst's original app and found over 37 critical security flaws that Nia's version had resolved. One tweet showed side-by-side screenshots of Brent laughing in a podcast interview just weeks earlier. "We only work with the best. My T-level talent. You know the type." The quote was now being dragged under a flood of sarcastic replies. Guess Nia wasn't the type. She was just better. Let me know when MIT drops that course on Humility 101. By noon, Brent was forced to release a statement. He posted a long, corporate-style apology that started with, "We regret how this situation was handled." But it didn't land because people had seen how it was handled. They watched the smirks, heard the mockery, and most importantly, they saw her rebuild it all in one night. One comment under Brent's post had more likes than the post itself. "You didn't handle anything. She handed you the truth. You just didn't recognize it until it went viral." Meanwhile, Nia? She was quiet again. Not because she was hiding, but because she didn't need to speak anymore. Her inbox was overflowing. CTOs, founders, tech journalists, conference organizers. One company offered her a blank check salary. Another asked if she'd be open to mentorship roles. But Nia just smiled. Because the most delicious part of all this? They wanted her now that the world had seen her. But she didn't want them. She sat with Aunt Lorna that night, sipping tea at the same table where she once studied, with a cracked tablet and a hand-me-down charger. Lorna grinned and shook her head. "They told you no, and you built your own, yes." "I didn't just build an app," Nia said quietly. "I built evidence. You built a mirror, baby. And now they don't like what they see." Catalyst Labs issued a press release announcing, Leadership restructuring. Brent was out, quietly, without ceremony. Their app, temporarily pulled from the store. In its place, a screen that said, "We're rebuilding." The right way this time. Nia's video passed 3.2 million views by the end of the week. She hadn't replied to a single offer. Not yet, because she was building something else, and this time, it wouldn't be for them. A week later, Nia walked past the Catalyst Labs building one last time. Not out of curiosity, not to see if they were still talking about her, but to remind herself that she didn't need to walk into their world, because she'd already walked through it and left it changed. The building looked the same. Glassy, glossy, cold. But now, she saw through it. Saw it for what it really was. A monument to mediocrity protected by privilege. They had the brand. She had the brilliance. And no one could unsee that now. In the weeks that followed, Nia said no to every offer. Not because she was bitter, but because she had something better. She launched Root Code Labs, her own platform. A space for young, underrepresented coders to learn, build, and publish their work, without gatekeepers, bias, or snide startup bros at the table. No one had to pitch. No one had to prove they belonged. If they could code, they were already enough. Within 48 hours of launch, 20,000 users signed up. Educators offered grants. One nonprofit funded 500 laptops for high school girls in Detroit, because they wanted to plant seeds where Nia bloomed. But for Nia, it wasn't about going viral. It never was. It was about rewriting what power looks like in tech. It's not always a white guy in a hoodie with venture funding and a caffeine addiction. Sometimes, it's a quiet black girl with twist-out curls and a flash drive full of fire. Sometimes, power shows up in silence, sits in the back of the room, codes with her head down, and leaves behind proof so undeniable that it forces the world to pay attention. A journalist finally asked her, "What would you say to those who doubted you?" She looked into the camera, smiled softly, and said, "I'd thank them, because they gave me a room I didn't belong in, and I left it better than I found it." And just like that, she disappeared again. Not into obscurity, but into legacy, because long after the likes faded, long after Catalyst Labs rebranded, long after Brent tried to podcast his way back into relevance, the code remained, signed, stamped, unmistakably hers.